Close your eyes for a moment and visualize your future self. Happy, content, fulfilled, full of joy, doing whatever you love. It's pretty wonderful, isn't it? But now the never-ending question, how do we get from our current self to that future version in the least steps possible? The mind is certainly a spooky place to be in. There's so many thoughts running through it every single day. With the constant demand for our attention from social media and everything bombarding us in our everyday lives, it's becoming never-ending in terms of how hard it is to decipher the useful thoughts from the useless ones and to connect our current to our future selves. It's very easy to get lost in the daily motions and to lose the larger vision that is creating your future self. Walter Mischel, which is a fellow we've talked about before on the channel, who's very famously come up with the marshmallow experiment, and he's infamous for having studied the connection between the current and the future self. He identified two concepts that people can resonate with. One is called the self-center, and the second is the stranger center. So the self-center, as it sounds, is the idea that traits are associated with what we know to be ourselves. And on the other hand, on the flip side, we have the stranger center, which is traits and characteristics that do not resonate with us and represent a stranger. So interestingly, what Mischel found is that individuals in their current form or their current self that identify to their future self using the self-center, that is, seeing their future self having the same traits and characteristics as they do currently, showed more discipline and more vision for the future and more drive towards getting to that future self. And those that identified their future selves more with the stranger center, that being them having traits or characteristics not at all associated with who they are currently, found it much more difficult to maintain discipline and to work towards that future self. So realistically, what Mischel uncovered is procrastination. Procrastination can ensue because we don't have this connection to the future self, and therefore we don't have a solid sense of identity in that moment to work towards in the future. And so this can cause an identity crisis, and procrastination will ensue. So that begs the question though, how do we get away from this idea of the stranger center for our future self and make it more of a self-center? I've heard this quote before, but it is very powerful and it shows the power of thinking. It's the idea that thoughts become attitudes, which become beliefs over time, and then develop into perception. And this is how a lot of people view the world. Their thoughts eventually create their reality, and this is what separates their current from their future self. What's interesting about these thoughts that become perception over time is that we often need to challenge these ideas in order to find our future self. For example, if you think sales is completely useless and is a skill nobody needs to know, but your future self sells courses to your audience, this is a conflicting identity. So what can you do to bridge that? Well, you can go try to sell something. You can start a lemonade stand, or you can even just try to sell yourself as a person. Try to make someone else know your value. And this is a great way to connect your current to your future self. A good place to start with all of this is to write down a one-sentence idea of what motivates you, and write it down in a notebook. Have that one-sentence structure of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, what motivates you, in one place, and this will really help guide you to your future self as well. As cheesy as this one sounds, what also definitely helps is a vision board. It's creating this vision essentially of your future self and pinning it up on a board. What do you want to have materially, but also in terms of how you feel, in terms of what you want to have accomplished, what you want to be working on, how much free time you have, those kinds of things. It doesn't even have to be visual, but you can write it down, you can have lists on there, you can do whatever you want. But realistically, by doing this, you're leveling yourself right now with that future version of yourself and who you want to become, so that you're, again, bridging that gap. Another thing that I'm notoriously bad at is learning from others that resemble your future self. Envision yourself becoming a world-renowned electrician. You need to get around good electricians. Go find one on LinkedIn and have a coffee with them, ask them about their experience, and this will bring you another step closer to your future self as well. And tie significant emotion to it. Why is it so passionate for you? Why does it drive you so much? And if you know that, you can start to really internalize those feelings from that and then project it out into the future so that you already know what it feels like to have accomplished those things. I also love this quote by Bob Proctor, and he says, "If you can see it in your mind, you will hold it in your hand." And this is a great way of looking at this as well. Realistically, if your thoughts can create that future version of yourself and you can work towards it, you will get there. What's probably the coolest part about all of this is if you have taken the time to really master this craft of aligning your future and current self, it'll help you to find abundance right now and to meet yourself with challenges and to really hone in on what you want to do and where you want to go. And it makes life so much easier for you. You're doing it for a purpose. There's a reason you're going through all of this, and it just makes everything a little bit, it puts it in perspective really. We tend to have a bias towards our current self that we know everything and that we've learned everything that we already need to know. But the truth is that our current self is just as temporary as all the other previous versions of ourself, and so will future versions. We're constantly evolving and learning, becoming better or worse, whatever way you end up going. But realistically, you're always changing, and change is the only constant, as the saying goes. So embrace that, get your current and future self aligned, and life will be a lot better for you. And you'll realize that your overall mission will become a lot clearer to you.